Hi there, I'm Brent McCarty, President of ESET North America, and I'd like to welcome you to Day 3 of the San Diego Oasis Technology Fair. For those of you who have not heard of ESET, we are one of the largest cybersecurity companies in the world, with our North American headquarters located right here in San Diego. We create security software for all types of connected devices so that you can stay safe from hackers and cyber criminals. Whether it is your smartphone, your laptop, the servers of your business, or even your smart TV in your living room, cyber criminals are always looking for vulnerabilities to exploit in order to gain access to their targets. And many times, their targets end up being you. Did you know that 1 in 4 US adults are victims of cybercrime? Now, that 25% statistic shouldn't be surprising because hackers are attacking computers and networks every 39 seconds. I realize that in most movies, hackers are often portrayed as hoodie-wearing, basement-dwelling, pizza-eating teenagers. However, in reality, most of the hacks and breaches of corporate networks involve teams of well-organized and well-funded individuals. They use all kinds of tricks and tools depending on what they are after. Now, I don't say all that to scare you. At ESET, we believe that everyone should be able to enjoy their technology safely. And my hope is that after today's presentations, you'll be more informed about how ESET can protect yourself. You'll be more informed about how you can protect yourself and how ESET can protect you. And most importantly, your data from cyber criminals. In just a moment, you'll be hearing from ESET's Chief Security Evangelist, Tony Anscombe. Tony has over 20 years of cybersecurity experience and has spoken to audiences around the world. Today, he's going to be speaking to all of you about 3 interesting topics. First up, he'll be presenting a very important topic, identity theft. Second, he's going to be talking about dating apps and social media. And third, he's going to be presenting on how to protect your home from cyber criminals. So with all of that, I hope you'll learn a little bit more about cybersecurity, using technology safely, a little bit more about ESET, and how to protect yourself. Tony, over to you.
Hi, thank you, Brent. Thanks for that great introduction. Today I'm going to be talking about online dating and social apps. We're going to focus more on the online dating and actually some of the nasty scams that are out there around romance scams and other things, and hopefully give you some good advice on potentially how to stay safe if you are going down the online dating route or trying to meet new friends through social apps. So this is me. I'm Tony Anscombe, as you just heard, Chief Security Evangelist at ESET. ESET's a cybersecurity company. Brent gave you a great introduction to us as a company. If you have a question at the end of the presentation, great. I mean, we're going to have some questions and answers, so I look forward to that. However, if you've got a question that you don't want to ask in a public forum, or in a month's time you decide you've got a question that you'd love somebody to answer, an expert in the system, please feel free to reach out to me. Here's my email address. I will do my best to get back to you. It might take me a day or so sometimes, but I will promise to email you back. And there's my Twitter address as well. So at Tony@ESET. So don't feel embarrassed about any questions you might ask. There's never such a thing as a stupid question, because actually if you don't know something, it's good to ask. So tony.anscombe@eset.com. So feel free to email me at any time. So what's the problem? Why is there a problem with online dating, or why should we be concerned? Why does somebody like me need to stand up in front of you and say, we need to keep you safe if you are going down this path? Well, firstly, there is a problem. So the Federal Trade Commission collect information on scams and crime. So this is in a report by a unit called IC3, which is part of the FTC. In fact, this is part of the FBI, that the FTC report on, so people reporting crime. It's people reporting losing more money in romance scams in the past 2 years than any other fraud reported. So that's a huge statement. So romance scams are growing. It's an issue. And it's got the notice of people like the FTC who are trying to protect you. Now, how many romance scams were reported? Well, there's 25,000 in 2019. That's a 40% increase on 2018. And the scams involved around $201 million. So that's the reported crime. Now, think about this type of crime. This is a romance scam. So, you've been suckered in, for want of a better term, by some cyber criminal. You've they've told you they love you, and you've gone down this path, and you've handed over some cash, or you feel that you've been scammed in some way, and you go to the FTC and report it, hopefully. But I actually reckon there's an awful lot of people that don't. They probably feel really embarrassed. They probably feel really awkward about what's happened, and actually they probably just want to lift the rug and sweep it under the rug and have another day and not go down the path of reporting it. So just bear in mind, these are the people that reported it. This number is probably much, much, much higher in real terms, because a lot of people probably just don't report it because they feel embarrassed about being a victim of a crime like this. Now, if we look at cybercrime generally, by the way, across the globe, across all types of different cyber criminals, whether it's ransomware, whether it's phishing, whether it's data breaches and identity theft, the value of cybercrime is worth about $1.5 trillion today globally. So this is a business, and this is really important to understand as we go through this presentation. Just have in the back of your mind that anybody that might scam you, anybody that might try to harm you online, this is their job. This is how they're making money. There's a lot of money at stake in here, and it's a business for them. It's not, and that is how they make their living. And that's an unfortunate scenario. So they're motivated to do this. So what is a romance scam? Let's look at that first. A romance scam is where somebody creates a fake profile. They pretend to be somebody they're not. And that fake profile they then use to target victims. So whether that's in social media, whether that's on dating sites, or whether it's in other social apps, they create a persona and they then target people. Now, they may target that person with some level of knowledge, i.e. some of that person's details may have been in a data breach. So they may know something already about that person, maybe something they like or something they've got interest in. So they target their victims very specifically. They may look for certain demographics. So is this person likely to pay if I try and scam them? So they do actually profile the person they're trying to attack. They will build trust with the person. And that trust, they will try and build it really, really quickly. And they may even get to the point of telling the person, they love them very, very quickly in a relationship, maybe too soon. However, of course, as the victim, it might be something you wish to hear at that moment in time, not realizing they're not legitimate. They will chat several times a day. Now, this might seem frequent, so you might actually feel pretty good about this person wanting to chat with you several times a day. But remember, they're chatting with maybe 50 other people that day. They're not just running one online scam against you. They're actually running lots of online scams against lots of people at the same time, all with different personas, and they're just moving from one to the next. So they may actually feel frequent, but they're not. Unfortunately, this is their job. They're sitting at a desk somewhere actually doing this. They'll have a creative story. Now, what I mean by that is they'll have a story that makes them an oil rig worker, or they'll be in the military, or they're going to be a doctor overseas. But there will be some elaborate story, meaning that they're abroad. They don't live in the area. Maybe they will tell you they did live in the area, but they will give you some elaborate story about their career or where they are, their location, and that is all part of the scam. And then they'll ask you for money, and that elaborate story then plays into the money role as well. So they may turn around and say, well, I'd like to come and see you. Could you fund this? Could you send me money for a plane ticket? So there we're linking the two together. They want travel expenses. They may turn around and claim they've got surgery costs because they need to go and see a doctor, or they've got gambling debts they need to pay off, or they've got visa and documents that they're stuck in some country that they can't get out of, or they need to get home and they can't for some reason, or they need a new passport. Can you wire them money? This is all just a scam. Anybody on an online dating site that's asking you for money, it's a scam. So start from that zero trust of everybody point of view, and it will help start to keep you safe. They'll ask you to wire money. They'll ask for it through gift cards. They'll ask you to reload a card that they've already got. They'll give you the details of that card to see if you'll reload it. And like I say, they will profess love for you very, very quickly. And the one thing they will try and do is take the conversation off of the dating sites. They'll try and get you onto another platform, a chat platform, an individual platform, where actually the communication may not be being logged. by any company, where dating sites may actually keep records of some of those communications going backwards and forwards, so that if law enforcement comes knocking and says at some stage that actually they want to, there has been a scam, if they've taken you off the site and the communication is off the site, that's why, because it's much harder for law enforcement to actually come and get that detail. So what about staying safe? So that's kind of the negative side. Let's talk about actually doing this in a really positive way. And how do we keep you safe online? So let's give you some of those tips about some of the things that I'd suggest you do both during and before you sign up to any online dating site. One of the first things I'd say is know what's online about you, because if you do use your own identity, which I don't personally recommend, but if you did, or you do end up telling somebody what your real name is, make sure you know what's online about you already. Yeah. So Google yourself. Yeah. Here's a Google of me. So as you can see, I'm pretty much in. I've got a fairly unique-ish name. So you can see my research results don't get lots of other people in here as well. But if you've got a name that's more frequently used or more commonly used, put a location in here and you'd actually narrow down these results, or put some other information in here about you that would narrow down these results, and you'll soon find out if there's anything about you. And easily skipping through the first 2 or 3 pages, you'll find out if there's information on the internet about you. As you can see on here that different articles about me, different blog sites that I'm on, etc. They're all pretty much in here. Now, also look at images. So as you can see, lovely images of me. Some of them from slightly when I was younger. And there's 2 images in there, as you can see, that clearly aren't me. I didn't have the long hair or look like that at any stage. But however, that is amusingly another Tony Anscombe, who's a Brit, and he lived in Los Angeles. So 2 Brits living in California with the same name. Very strange, but there you go. He unfortunately has passed away. He was a film director and film producer. So I used to see my name when I was a kid appearing on the credits, which was always very exciting if we went to see a movie that he produced or directed. So how do you know when somebody has added something to the internet about you? Well, once you've done that search, you're happy you know what's out there about you, set up a Google alert. Now, if you type in Google alerts in Google, it will come up with this box on the screen here on the left-hand side, and you'll see that I have alerts for me, my wife, and my son. What that means is I get the email that's on the right-hand side of this screen once a day. You can choose to actually have it in pretty much real time, or you can choose for it to be weekly, I think. But once a day I get an email that's, if anything new has appeared about me, I get an email saying what's appeared. So as you can see here, an article had been published that day where I've been quoted talking about COVID-19 contact tracing apps. So anytime anything appears about me on the internet, I am aware of it. So if somebody else posts something about me, I get to see that too. So it's super useful. So then you know what's out there on the internet about you. Whatever device you're using, so if you are thinking of doing online dating, if you're using a tablet or a phone, of course, some of those applications, or even if you're using a laptop and caching passwords in the browser, then make sure that you think about who else might have access to the device or who else might be using the device. If you're one of those people that take a tablet and hand it off to kids and they start playing games on apps and all sorts of things, just make sure that they're not being able to access whatever else it was you were doing on the device as well. So if you did have an online dating app, then you don't want them going in there and seeing maybe the conversations you were having with somebody you've just met, or potentially that what your preference is or how you've listed yourself, etc., etc. So just make sure you're conscious of who you're sharing the device with. So there's so many of these sites, and there are a lot of online dating and social sites. So some of them are free, some of them are paid. If it's free, you're probably the way they're making money. So your data may actually be the cost of the site. They may be using data about you and selling it to someone else, or using it for advertising purposes, or if it's free, the company makes money somehow. So I'm trying to understand how that company makes money. There's a certain rule of nothing, there's no such thing as a free lunch, and that's unfortunately true as well on the internet. Somehow we pay for all the services we use. Think about that. When we were looking at Google just a minute ago, Google search results typically have those sponsored ads at the top. So you're using Google for free, but you're paying, the ads are paying, what's paying for you using it. Same on a dating site. Just be conscious if it's free. Read the privacy policy. Now, this might sound really, really boring and geeky, but if you take a scan of the privacy policy, you don't need to read all the legalese and C's. Look at the pieces of the privacy policy that talk about, what data we collect, what we do with your data, who we share your data with. It's probably 3 different sections of the privacy policy. Understand what's happening to your data, because you're going to potentially put in some personal information, something you might not want to share with somebody else. Is there a trial period? If there is, use it. Yeah. Make sure because then at the end of the trial period, if you've decided it's not for you, you can obviously delete the account and move on. And in fact, that's a good point. Make sure you can delete the account. Make sure you do some research on the site before you sign up. Some of these sites, some of the less reputable ones, don't actually allow you to delete the account, or you'll have to email them, and then you're going to go through this process of being frustrated that they don't respond to you. Make sure that you can actually delete the account. Now, under privacy legislation in certain territories, so for example, we're in California, European sites, different places around the world, there is privacy legislation that means they have to delete you if you've asked. But if the site is in another country, hosted in another country, doesn't comply or whatever, for whatever reason, that might be difficult. So make sure there's a delete option. And if, of course, somebody's recommended it, awesome, because recommendations are what works best. Before you spend any money, think about how you're going to spend the money. If in doubt, use a prepaid card. So if you're not sure about whether this is something you want to go into long term, and it's forcing you to put a credit card in for repeat payments, use a prepaid credit card. Go to the supermarket, buy one off the shelf, put that certain amount on the card, and use that card number to actually subscribe to the site for a month. If possible, don't store credit card details on the site. In fact, that's actually a pretty good tip on all websites. Unless it's something absolutely you're going to use time and time again, just don't store card details. You can use card details on demand as and when required. Be aware that once you've signed up to a social network like this, that somebody else may be seeing you. If you have used your real name, you might start to see emails saying, we need new payment details off you, because of course they know which site you're on. They know you've just signed up, and suddenly if they can find out your email address, then you might see phishing emails or scammy emails claiming to be from that site. So be super careful of that. Phishing emails are becoming really, really complex and very, very legitimate looking. So they are becoming harder and harder to recognize, unfortunately, because there's more technology becoming available to the bad guys, unfortunately. Use a good password. Every cybersecurity person that stands up in front of an audience says, strong passwords, strong passwords. Absolutely, use a strong password. And there's an example on this screen here, AFC3, MCFC0. So if you can't remember a complex password such as that, make it a phrase of something you know. This says Arsenal Football Club 3, Manchester City Football Club 0. So I actually went to a game where those two clubs played. I'm an Arsenal fan. Delighted. So in big capital letters, Arsenal Football Club is 3 and Manchester City Football Club is 0. There's no real words in there. Very hard to guess. You can mix the case, and you can create passwords out of those types of phrases, different scores or different things in life. You can create very complex passwords if you create phrases that you remember in your head. Now, if you can't remember passwords, use a password manager. That's another option. Now, the other thing on here, the second point on this slide, switch on multi-factor authentication. Now, what do I mean by that? When you sign onto a site and it sends a code to your mobile phone, you've got to put in the number to log on to the site. That's multi-factor authentication. And it's called that because it's something you have and something you know. So you're logging onto the site, you've got to physically have the phone because it's sending it to that phone number, and you've got to know the PIN to get into the phone, and you've also got to put in the password to get into their service. So something you have, something you know. The best way to think of this, if it all sounds way too complicated, it's not, because we've all been carrying one in our pocket for the last 20 years or so. It's called an ATM card. The banks use it. Something you have and something you know. It's the card you have and the PIN number, of course, to get cash out of that hole in the wall. That's if you've got cash. But my point is don't be afraid to turn that on. It's one of the things that will save your account from being breached or cyber attackers getting access to it. It's probably the biggest thing you can do today to actually secure your account. So make sure you use it if it's an option. Personally, I'd say don't use your real name. Yeah, you can be whoever you want. Yeah, don't be too fake. Don't use somebody else's identity, but you don't need to use your real name. Set up an email account specifically just for this purpose. So go and create a new email account just for this purpose, because if you decide it's just not for you and you want to put it to bed, you can. And more to the point, if you do get scammed in that unfortunate scenario, you can just delete the account and move on. So don't use your Facebook or Google ID. So don't link these things together, because of course, once you do, it's fairly easy to trace somebody from one service to another service if they're using the same ID across multiple services, or indeed the same email address across different services. So try and actually keep this completely separate. Don't overshare and be honest. That goes without saying. I should really, when I say but be honest, of course I've just told you not to use your real name. So I'm saying be honest in most parts, yeah, but don't disclose your true identity. So your profile doesn't need to be a full life story, and consider not using your full location. So you could say I'm in the San Diego area, and that's probably enough. You don't need to get into which suburb or where in the San Diego area you actually are. And a picture should be recognizable. I put this in here because there's so many stories you hear of, yeah, it wasn't quite the person. They posted a picture of 20 years ago. Yeah, be honest. Yeah, when I say be honest, that's the type of thing I mean be honest about. Yeah, you are who you are and be proud of who you are. So use a recent picture. And oversharing, if you put too much in your profile, by the way, and maybe you're not being scammed on that site, but all the information on there might be being scraped by some bad guy that's on the site too, who's building profiles of people that they're going to scam in some other way. So don't overshare, because those are pieces of your identity puzzle that could be used in other ways. And my next presentation is about identity theft. So if you're going to hang around for that, we're going to talk about that in a bit more detail. In fact, I'm going to explain to you how somebody scammed me, which was really bad. But you'll learn about that in the next presentation. Now, on the picture front, think about what pictures to share. I shouldn't need to explain this, but don't share pictures of your junk, and don't share pictures of naked breasts. Yeah, because what happens on the internet, unfortunately, stays on the internet. So we'll move on from that. We don't need to dwell on that, but just be cautious of what you do share. And think about what's in the pictures you share. So there is hidden information in pictures that you share as well. So for example, here, this is a picture taken of me at an event presenting. It was taken by an ESET colleague. I actually asked him to take pictures because I always like to have a picture of where I've presented, and typically a few of the audience in there as well, because it helps me internally to turn and say, yeah, there was lots of people turned up for the talk. It was always interesting. So it helps me internally to show that I'm doing a good job. Now, what do I mean by other data sitting in the back of the picture? Well, so you can see the picture, and on the right hand side of the screen, you can see the metadata that is stored with the picture. Now, this isn't just phones. DSLR cameras do this too. They store things like the lens used and the exposure, etc. But if you look at this, you can see which phone this was taken from, the make of the phone. You can see which lens the phone was using, and the flash didn't go off. But most importantly are those details on the bottom of this picture, the GPS coordinates. So every phone has a GPS system in it, so it knows exactly where it is. Of course, that's how we use Google Maps and all those sorts of great things that we use on our phones. And super convenient they are too, aren't they? But when you're taking a picture, if somebody hasn't actually switched off the location with the camera, it means that you can locate it. So now think about this in our online dating scenario. Somebody says, oh, can you send me a picture? You take the selfie, you send them a picture. Guess what? You may have just advertised exactly where you live, because if they're smart and they're switched on, they can actually look and suddenly see the exact location. So as you can see, I was actually in the Hyatt Regency in Toronto, and that little orange square, and that is exactly where I was in the actual hotel. So I was actually on that corner of the building. So the GPS is actually pretty accurate. So if you're in a street with houses or even in an apartment complex, somebody can probably pinpoint you to within a few meters. So switch it off. This is how you switch it off. This is an iPhone. This is my iPhone. So if you go into privacy, look at location. If you go down to camera, click on camera, you can see you can actually just switch off location access. Yeah. To me, I never need to send somebody my location in a picture. There's no need for them to ever see that or have that metadata. If you did have a picture that you needed that metadata to be in it, then great, come back in, switch it on, take the picture, and then switch it off. Yeah. But just don't actually do it all the time. So yeah, just keep it switched off. Yeah. Now, while we're on the subject of pictures, there is a super cool service that very few people understand or know about. You can reverse lookup. You can reverse image scan and search for images of pictures on Google. So we think about searching for a name and then looking at images, or searching for a recipe and then you see images of somebody that's cooked the recipe or whatever, or what the recipe might look like. You can actually upload an image and scan Google for it. So let's look at what that is. So here's the URL, super useful URL, and it's a super fun thing to go and do anyway, actually. Go to Google Images, yeah. Click on this little button here, this camera button. And when you do, this box will appear and you can paste in the URL of where the image is. So if you know the link, if it's an online image, Google will go collect the image and search for that image, or you can upload the image. So what I did was I clicked on upload an image and I used an image. In fact, the profile picture at the start of my presentation, I used that image. So that little circular image, which is an image that I use frequently when I post blogs, etc. And I searched the internet, I gave it to Google and said, can you tell me all the places where this image is? And the search results look something like this. So as you can see, the images at the top, RSA 2018, that was actually the image I uploaded. For some reason, it then gives you words associated with the listings of where you are. For some reason, it thinks I'm a gentleman. I'd like to think of myself as a gentleman. So Google got that right. And as you can see, the search results, We Live Security, where I write blogs, the RSA conference at the bottom, which is actually where the picture was originally uploaded. If I go to page 2, I see other articles that I've written. I'll come across that Tech Republic article that you saw earlier on about COVID apps. You'll see pictures that wherever that picture is used. Now, why is this important when you're online dating? Well, think about this. If somebody is scamming you, they're using a fake picture or a generic picture that they may be using on 10 other profiles too. If you scan, you might see suddenly in here, this picture appear with 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 different names against it. So suddenly you know it's not real. So you know that the person's picture is fake or being used in multiple profiles. If I can get my words out. Sorry about that. Yeah. So great tool to do that. Don't move away from the site you're on. Yeah. Stay on the site. The person will be trying to get you off to those other sites. I think we already mentioned that. Yeah. So remember what you share can be reposted, even if you're using a site, even if you have moved the communication to a site that says, videos disappear every 24 hours or conversations are deleted automatically. Just bear in mind, somebody can screenshot, somebody can take a picture of a picture, so 2 phones, and actually take a picture from one phone to the next phone. There's all sorts of ways that people can keep content. Even if it's a video call, somebody may actually be capturing the entire video call and recording it on their machine. So just be aware, anything you do online, doesn't forget, it doesn't go away. Somebody may have captured it. So whatever you do, make sure you're happy that whatever you're doing potentially goes into the public domain. And also, think about everything before you send. Before you hit post or hit send on something, think for 5 seconds. Is this what I want to be doing? Is it what I want to be saying? Is it what I want to be sharing? So just think and pause before you always hit send. Do your research on the person. Much the same I've talked about, doing a Google search on you and doing image lookups and all those sorts of things. Do your research on that person too. Of course, if they're using not their real name and being safe like you are, you might not actually find too much. So don't be too shocked by that. But if they are scamming you, you're likely to find that their identity or certainly the picture has appeared in other places too. Don't use your real phone number. Use a Google Voice number. It's a burner. It creates a burner phone virtually online, or indeed use a burner phone. Type in Google Voice, you can get a phone number that's attached to your local geographic area, so it'll be the same area code, San Diego area code. So it looks and feels all very legitimate. You can get messages to it, you can take voice calls, you can speak to people on it, you can respond to text messages, but it's all virtual. And if something goes wrong, you can just wipe down the number, it's gone, you can create another one. So nice and simple. Yeah. Chat with people by phone. Video will stop catfishing. Now, catfishing is where somebody is actually pretending to be somebody else. You try and get them on video, they're going to probably turn and say they don't want to be on video with you for some reason. That's because the picture they sent you is not them, and they can't actually put that person on a video call, of course. So it makes it super difficult for them. So if they avoid video chat for any reason, it should raise a little red flag with you. Yeah, so just be really, really cautious. If you do decide to meet somebody in person, follow the guidance. There's tons and tons of guidance out there about meeting people you don't know. Yeah, make sure friends know. Make sure you use certain types of transport. Make sure it's in a public place, etc., etc. Yeah, but follow the guidance that online dating site gives you, or go and check out other advice on the internet for that. Yeah, never if you suspect it is a romance scam, never transfer money. Yeah, if you have transferred money or you've thought about it, contact your bank, tell the bank. Yeah, they're not going to judge you for it. Yeah, in fact, they'll probably be really concerned, and they're going to try and get your money back for you in some way if they can. If you sent gift cards, contact the vendor. So if you've bought somebody Amazon gift cards like that, contact Amazon and tell them the scenario, because they don't want people using their system to scam you either. So yeah, make sure you've tried to thwart their access to the cash. Now, listen to family and friends. If somebody's telling you something sounds too good to be true, or this person sounds too good to be true, listen to them. You might not want to hear it, but yeah, hear them out, because they may actually be seeing something you're not in the way they're talking to you, or be suspicious in the ways that you're not, because you're ingrained in the conversation, so to speak. If you decide it is a scam, cease all communications with the person. Yeah. Search for the and there's other research you can do to try and work out this. You can search for their creative story. You can reverse image their scan, as we've gone through. If you've decided they are scamming you, go and make that complaint. The more people that complain, yeah, the more people that are honest about the scams, yeah, the more prevalence that gets with legislators and law enforcement to go and do something about it. So be really, 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 really cautious. Now, if there is a data breach, of course, if this online site has a data breach, make sure you suspend your credit card that was associated with it. You set up ID monitoring. You delete the account, change passwords on other sites. Well, you shouldn't need to change passwords on other sites because you're using unique ones on every site. But if you're not, which I suspect some of you might not be, yeah, go and change all the passwords. Watch out for data breaches. We're going to talk about identity theft in the next presentation. So, we're getting to this in much more detail in just a moment as well. So, the last thing I'm going to leave you with is respect other people's privacy. In the same way that you want your privacy respected, make sure you're respecting other people's. If they send you a picture, don't send it to other people. Don't post it somewhere else. You don't want yours posted anywhere else, so don't do it to them either. So respect to everybody else's privacy online as well. So thank you for listening to me, attending today's discussion on this. Yeah. For the people in Oasis, we have created a special offer as ESET. I think Brent may have mentioned it earlier on. I can't remember, but if he didn't, then offers.eset.com, and you can get a 30% discount if you've come along and listened to our presentations today. That would be great. I want to hear your questions. We're going to sit down now, and I'm going to answer as many questions as I possibly can. So get your questions rolling. Like I say, if you don't want to share them today, don't feel that you can't send them to me. My email address was at the front of this presentation. Yeah, you can email me anytime.